a morally oriented family. We do know family is the bedrock on which any society is built, and oftentimes, if we get it right, um, as far as the family is concerned, we can get the nation right. It's the first cradle or first center of civilization, as far as anything in life is concerned. The family is the first point of call. And so the challenge we have nowadays is everyone you talk to, everyone you ask a question, you hear something like, well, this anomaly we find in the society, whether it is open defecation, whether it is corruption, whether it is the malpractices that we find in our exam halls, or the person beating the traffic, we adduce it to being morally bankrupt. That is how we call it. However, so I do know that every person you meet on the road comes from a particular family. And if that conversation isn't had as to how to go about having something to correct that anomaly, because this one is done, we're mature now. So how do we fix the next generation? I think that's a conversation we should be having. Well, I am not a life coach. I'm a journalist. I get to report this. In fact, we get to report all the morally bankrupt people as much as possible, because sometimes it makes the news more often than any fantastic story in the first place. Okay, I have with me in the studio to discuss this as a life coach, Mr. Peters Bakari. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So the obvious question to ask is, why do we even need to talk about raising a morally oriented family? We'll get into the nitty-gritty of it, because morality is a different ball game. Family is a different ball game. Orientation, those are the key words in this topic. However, why do we even have to talk about this ab initio?
Okay, thank you for having me on the show. It's a very important topic to discuss. And most of the time, people will tell you that the home is the first institution of the society. You know, whatever people or someone becomes, they always trace it back to the home. And some will say it is based on where the person grew up. But I strongly believe that the society are just visitors. So whatever seeds that the society plants in someone, maybe someone grew up in Mushin or Ajegunle, it will not totally determine what the person will turn out to be. It's highly dependent on what is being nurtured consistently in the home front. So the lifestyle that the children, they see their parents live out is what we eventually is the permanent compass for where the children would turn out in life, more than what the society implants in them. So a child can come back from school with a slang. So when they say that thing, when they utter that word at home, what is the parent's response? That will determine if that will continue or it will stop. Do you understand what I'm saying? So most of the time, children pick up what they see more than what they hear. So you cannot teach love your parents, love your neighbors as yourself. You must respect people. You know, you must be kind. You don't teach such things. You live it out. So when they see you, when they see the way you treat their mother, when they see the way you treat your husband, their father, that is what they eventually turn out to become, not the instructions you give them.
Okay, Nigeria is large, huge in terms of even land mass, and of course even the numbers, 250 million. You're talking about a morally oriented family. We're talking about those for generations have inculcated very bad, bankrupt morally upbringing or values. I was listening to, coincidentally, I didn't even know that this was what we were talking about. I was listening to the Emir of Kano yesterday on the station, and he was talking about the fact that Nigeria presently rewards corrupt politicians with ministerial appointments. And I like the fact that he balanced it out when he talked about, look, it's not only about blaming the churches, blaming the mosque. Everyone is involved, because you can't really. So my own question is, where did we get it wrong? Because you talked about it's what the kids or the children say to their parents. That so, at what point in our national life did we miss it out? Because one will attribute it to the 70s, to the 80s, or is this something that has existed but is more pronounced now?
The thing is, humanity don't change. So times may change, calendar may change, but humanity itself don't change. When it comes to good characters, good behaviors, good attributes, values, it doesn't change. So you can't just say maybe the home front or is it church or something. The thing is, we can't attribute moral standards to places of worship alone, maybe mosque or churches alone. No, they can try, they can only do their best, but they are like visitors, like I said earlier on. It is the parents that are the permanent residents in the heart of the children. So, and when we talk about raising morally oriented family, what makes up of the family? So the father, the mother, the children.
How can father and mother that don't have the right values inculcate something moral in their kids?
That is the problem. So those who are not present, parents who are not present in the life of the children, they don't know the degree of decadence, the degree of, I don't know how to put it, that the damage they are causing in the life of the children if you're absent. When you leave your children to maids and wards to take care of them, you don't know the degree of what you are damaging the life of those children. Because, and the thing is, if a parent does not have moral values, moral standards, there's a high chance that the children will grow up to take after those parents and they will follow suit to those parents. So we can't say whether it is the political people that are rewarding bad behaviors or something. No, it starts from the home front.
Okay, let me just digress a little bit to address something we touched on, which is parents shouldn't leave their kids to the wards, the maids.
I didn't say they shouldn't. I'm telling you that when you do that, when you are absent, you are creating a huge gap in the raising up of that child, because they will take up after what they are seeing, not what they are hearing. You understand? What words can only pave direction, but what will create the road where they will go is the action they see.
Reality has shown that in recent years, the economic situation requires that fathers go to work, mothers go to work.
Okay.
So, because in this instance, we can't be talking about something in the skies when the reality shows that we have to go out and fend for the same kids. So I think we should be talking about how to balance it. I said it's just to digress a little bit. So in the face of the economic realities, parents need to do more than one thing and not be at home. So how do we balance it? Because it boils down to the question of family. Because the words
now that is why
they are also from a particular family.
Let me come in.
Yeah.
That is why work-life balance is important. And when it comes to life lessons is not like school, a classroom that we have the syllabus, we must finish this in this time. Only one thing that you just see somebody just display once, that is like 10 years lessons you've learned. Do you understand? So only once, even if it's just once, just at the dinner table that you're with your children, that can cover them for the next 5 years. Those once in a while see, I have a case study for this. Let's look at the Fela Anikulapo Kuti family. Let's use that as a case study. Now, there's a typical Nigerian genetic code that if someone grew up in Nigeria, there's a way they're supposed to behave. But you and I will agree that an average Kuti family does not follow after the Nigerian societal value. They follow after their father. When it comes to religious belief, they don't practice Christianity. They follow after their father in religious belief, in even in the lifestyle, in polygamy, in marriage, in everything. What they believe is what they see their father do. And you can agree with me that this man is always touring. So it's not as if it's one with them, but the lifestyle they see their father act out is what eventually molds them. what they eventually became. Having almost all the Kuti children.
What happens to those families that don't have fathers?
I'm telling you, they will take after what they are seeing, either from the maids, or either from the wards, or either from the brother, from the cousin, from wherever. I started smoking at a very young age. How did I get to smoking? I saw someone smoke who was close to me. But people have told you, don't Mafashigal is not good. You hear that. But what are you seeing is what is more important. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, we've got a question from Joy. Joy?
Right, on this side of here in Nigeria, we are very big on culture and traditions.
Yes.
Now, I'd like you to look at how our culture and traditions influence what we term as moral.
Okay, what we term as moral. Culture and tradition has a role to play in people's belief and mindsets. Do you understand it? And it has a role to play in what is acceptable. So what is acceptable in some regions might not be acceptable in some other region. But when it comes to morality, I think there's a standard all around the world. When it comes to something that is morally acceptable in the society, once you break the code, even people who are not even part of that society can tell that, this thing is not okay. Either in the way, maybe in the way you dress, in the way you talk, in the way you treat people. People can tell when you treat people badly, people can tell. When you break some rules, people can tell that, this is not okay. It's not about culture or this. Culture and tradition is a different place. It has to do with belief system that must be revered and respected. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so for instance, I'm an Igbo lady.
Okay.
In Igbo land, we don't, the men don't prostrate and the ladies don't kneel to greet. In fact, a young boy would shake you. But in Yoruba land, that will be regarded as being rude. In Yoruba land, we are meant to prostrate. A girl is meant to kneel to greet. And there are so many other things. And so
that is where courtesy comes in.
Okay.
Courtesy demands that when you are entering into an environment, you bow to that environment. I have a friend who is in Japan. We have our custom and tradition in Nigeria. But if you want to prosper over there, you must imbibe their own culture. In the way, when you want to enter, you must off your shoe. When you want to eat, you must use that stick they used to eat. So if you say you are an Igbo person, once you are married to a Yoruba family or you are coming to a Yoruba land, you must learn kini ashawambi or how do they behave here, and you learn that's courtesy.
That's where what's the nexus between morality and culture? Is there a link between the two?
I can't say there is a link when it comes to that one. Doesn't have to do with morality. That has to do with courtesy. That has to do with is it behavior? I don't know. That being maybe kneeling down to greet. That's not being moral or immoral.
Okay. So the question that comes into my mind is, what core values? Now that we've gotten to this point, I don't know how we got to this point. We couldn't put years to it or decades to this. So how do we begin to build on what core values should be at the center of each families now to build our moral values?
Number one, love, respect, mutual respect for humanity, kindness. The all principles still come down to the cardinal, which is love your neighbor as yourself. So if I love you as myself, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. So when people understand humanity, want how to be human, so that covers a whole range of atrocities. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't take your thing. I wouldn't even collect your wife. I wouldn't hurt you. Once I want to, how will I feel if I were in his shoes? No, this is wrong. So it calls with love, kindness, honesty. And most importantly, I always say this, when raising children, don't beat them for mistakes and flaws. You only correct children for disobedience, because every thing you see in the society it stems down to disobedience. Somebody breaking the rules of authority, somebody flouting rules, somebody becoming a criminal, they go against the laws of the land. It's all tied down to disobedience. When the government has said don't do this, then someone disobeys and say that's what they want to do. Don't go through one way. That's what they want to. They want to go through one way. Going against it all comes down from disobedience. So if we can come to a place whereby we raise children and only discipline them for disobedience, whenever they disobey, but not when they make. My child is 10 now. She has broken more than 21 plates. But I've never raised my hand, and I make sure I tell my wife to not to do the same. We always call it, be more careful, more careful. We don't beat her. Those are flaws. But once I give an instruction, don't do this. If you go against that, I will sit you down and explain to you. Do you know why I want to discipline you now? Because you have gone against my instruction.
Okay.
So that is very important. So when you can instill the culture of obedience in a child, it goes a long way, even when they now obey laws of the land, obey authority in churches, in places of worship, and schools where the work environment, it goes a long way.
Okay, how do parents model integrity, honesty, and kindness in daily life?
It starts from conversations. When you receive a phone call and you're telling your boss or somebody, I'm not at home, while you're at home, your child can see that. So now that becomes the standard. They now know that lying is acceptable.
Say that again, because I know Bimpe does it too.
So your child now believes that lying is a standard because they hear you. And most of the time, we should be very careful the conversations we have with our peers, our friends, when we're talking and children are around. They're eavesdropping, they're hearing. Those are the things they see. Those are the things I'm saying. Those things that they see you do, the things they see you say, your actions, the way you treat their mother, their father, those are the things that will eventually create a compass to how they become and turn out in life.
What does consistency do in how parents behave over time? In other words, how important is consistency between parents as what they say and what they do?
How important it is.
How important is consistency in what parents say and what they do?
The thing is, when it comes to life, there's no handout to life. So we cannot say, this is how you should do, this is how you should not do. But the thing is, in the long run, who you are, your personality will eventually play out. Do you understand? Your personality will eventually play out. So we can tell that this person is a nagging wife, this person is an obedient wife, this person is a wife beater, or this person is... In the long run, your children can tell your personality. And that personality is what will ingrain as in 90% of the time. It's only in some few cases, some very few cases, where we see children making a strong determination not to veer towards the path of their parents. And I'm a typical example of that. I grew up in a home where my dad drinks a lot. You understand? I'm not afraid to say that on air. My dad drinks a lot. So, and I saw the impact of that in his life, the damage it does. So it made me this, as in, it's a strong determination that I'll be in the midst of my peers. They'll be like, let's take one bottle, let's go. I say, no, I'm not taking. I don't want to socialize, like, as in you can say I'm not social, I'm not this, but I know what it will eventually, I've seen what it did in this man. I said, no, if I see him go like this, I want to go this way. Do you understand? So it takes some people who are like apostolic in nature to be strong enough to say, this is the path I want to choose. But 90% of the time, you see people who come from polygamous home, they see the damage it does or it did to their family. And while they are in their 100 level, they already have 2 girlfriends. So they're already tolling that path, even though you say you're against it. So that's what I'm telling you about. What people see, model them, mold them, and create a compass for them more than the... that is why most of the time churches don't work, because most of the front men, what they preach is not what they do. So all those preaching don't work, because people will take after your lifestyle more than what you say on pulpit.
Okay, let's speak to discipline and guidance again. What kind of discipline promotes moral growth and development without fear or shame?
Now, when it comes to discipline is in context. What if we I want to bring this to just African or Nigerian. You know, in abroad now, you say you must not touch a child, you must not beat a child. Even the Bible says, spare the rod and destroy the child. So you can't. The reality of life is, you can't say you don't touch children, but is in context what you call discipline. And one thing is, when it comes to discipline now or training, you cannot train your wife. You understand? That's one mistake people make. You want to train your wife, you want to train your husband. No. Because training comes with consequence, comes with correction, comes with discipline. So you can't say you are disciplining your wife or you are disciplining your... No. You can only train your children. You understand? But you can influence your husband, you can influence your wife, which still comes to your own lifestyle. So whatever your wife comes into your marriage with is temporal. Maybe your wife comes as nagging, unforgiving, resentful, deceitful, whatever it is. But if they will continue with that habit, it depends on who you are. Remember, the woman is a man with a womb. So whatever lifestyle you now, if you are deceptive, your wife will be as in times 2 of whatever it is. So if you are not straightforward, your wife will be like times 10. Or that's how women are. So you can only influence them. Whatever you want them to become, you live that lifestyle. But when it now comes to discipline, you can discipline your children. Do you understand it? And when it comes to discipline, I always want us to demarcate discipline from torment. I always tell my wife that don't make... Women have this... my mother is like that too. They can give you like this. Why did you do that? As they are talking again, you do not know that you are not supposed to... Each syllable comes with another slap. Each syllable, and I'm like, this is torment. But me, I'll just teach you that. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 stroke, and this is why, this is why, this is why. So then that one, you already know that after 5 stroke, the message has been passed across. That is what is more important. But when discipline has now become torment, that is
torture.
Torture, yes. We should be very careful not to cross the line.
Let's go to the part where, because we talk about family parents, but we also have other influences, like media and peer pressure. Yeah,
friends.
So how can families protect their children from negative influences of social media, mainstream media, as well as peer pressure?
We can only do our best, but one of the major things you can instill in a child is self-confidence and self-worth, knowing who they are. When you know who you are, another person you will not feel inferior to now imbibe somebody else's lifestyle. That, okay, because my friend drink, I want to join them so that they will not think. You can be confident in yourself, say, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But while they are still growing up, that's why we have parental control in all these apps. So there's a way you can set parental control that even there are some sites they can't visit on the browser. On YouTube, there are some videos that are over 18 that will not pop up. So you set all those things on their gadgets if you allow them to use gadgets. Those are those you can only try. But once they have left your vicinity, then that is the only thing that can thrive there, that can help them further, is the self-confidence and self-awareness of who.
So how do you build self-confidence for them to resist that pressure of?
Is by discussion. You have those discussions, you tell them things that are right, but more importantly, they see you live those life. So, but there's just a little, but when it comes to peer pressure, it has to do with later in life. Not when the children are still in maybe 10 years, 15 years, no. It's later in life. And at that later point in life, the person has already become an adult that's supposed to be able to take responsibility of themselves. Whatever you now turn out, after you are maybe 20, 25, you don't blame the parents anymore again. So if you are 20, 21, and your friends influence you to have girlfriend, influence you to drink, influence you to club, that's no longer the fault of the parents. But while you're growing up...
But we attribute it to the parents because they're a function of the family as well.
There's a dichotomy. There's a point. You now, you are an adult now. If you misbehave now, we can't send you back home, pay or pay your own. No. Do you understand that now? So it's you now at this point of your life now.
Isn't that what the society has become? Because so many people, I'm sure they come from very respectable, morally upright families, but they eventually turn out different. As we
Can you give examples?
Example.
This assumption. We can't just say people came from.
Like,
See, there's a study that shows.
Like the family you mentioned,
Okay.
is a very respectable family, stood for all the right things. The grandparent drove the first car in this country, fought for women's rights. We have doctors among them, lawyer, the great grandfather.
Yes, that
was
is
a
values.
missionary.
I understand what you're saying.
So
That is values. But have you thought about the habits also that they picked up? That almost all of them smoke, even the female. Those habits, they pick it from the father. Is he okay? Is that right? Is it good habits? Is he okay to be smoking on live television? So they pack the two together, and it also comes from the father. Even the bad ones. So it's all about what they see. Even if we bring it back to society, it's what people see that they become. That's my point.
So the argument also can also be reversed, where you say, okay, you have eventually become who you are. You want to call to Beko. So can we also say, for those who come from a family that is disjointed, that don't have any kind of moral standing, the child can also turn out to be good by virtue of his own personal determination.
I just gave you a typical example of myself. I told you about my father, and I told you what I eventually decided to do. So it's a two-way thing.
Okay.
But the foundation, the family lays the foundation, then what is now built upon, it now depends on that individual. So at the end of the day, you can't blame the society. That is society that made me become who I am. We've seen people, good people who came out from Mushin, came out from Ajegunle, and they turn out well in life. So you can't say it's because I grew up in Ajegunle, that's why I became like this. No.
Okay. Let's speak to education. Let's speak to how to cascade this to build a society that is moral.
Okay.
Because while it is not the grand norm for our existence, it's not the constitution, morality is totally different. I mean, so what kind of stories, what kind of books, what kind of video games, what kind of activity should our society, I mean Nigeria, engage in to shore up and build more morally upright? I'm
not an educationist, so I might not be able to recommend maybe a kind of video game.
I mean, what kind of stories? I mean, what kind of educational material? I mean, we're talking about the content, not necessarily a particular book.
I might not be able to prescribe anything when it comes to that, but I believe that moral standards should be something that should be taught in schools. But my point still remains that whatever schools, place of institution do is just temporal. Do you understand it? Parents should pick it up on themselves to instill what. Remember, train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. It's a standard principle. So who trains that child is the parents. So, and if the parents are no longer alive, whoever's assumed that role, a brother can assume the role of a parent. Do you understand it? So whoever assumed that role now plays that role to instill those values in those child. Though whatever it is they learn in school is temporal. It's ephemeral. What will eventually stay is whatever they see, the things that they see at home that is playing out. And if parents are not there, if it is the house help that is playing some things out, those are things that will create the foundation basis of what they now build upon later on.
We need to go. So what do we tell parents now as we wrap up? What is Mr. Bakare telling our parents?
I want parents to know that your home front is the biggest classroom, moral classroom that your children can be enrolled in, not institutions. Institutions are like visitors, but the parents are the permanent residents in the heart of learning of every child. So try as much as possible to be present. That 1 minute, that 10 minutes, that dinner table conversation is very important. And we should be intentional in our dealings, especially when we see them around. See, the lessons that stick are not the ones that I tell you, are the ones that you see me did, the way I treated somebody, the way I treated my driver, the way I treated the cleaner. When you see them, when you see my action, the way I responded, those lessons stick more than the ones I tell you, don't do this or do this or don't do this. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Bakare, a life coach, for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Hopefully we can get a significant number of parents watch this so that they'll know that, look, your actions and inactions affect how your child grows to become a morally upright person. Thank you very much for having this conversation with us.
You're welcome.
Conversation Lagos is standing by. They're ready to go. We'll take a short break, and it will be their turn. Don't go anywhere.